what we're going to do here really cuts to the heart of creating a modular and efficient menu system. So what we're going to do is essentially create a reusable button. And this button will be a parent, and any copies of it will be its children. If we make a change to the parent, it will affect all of the children. Now there are some unusual things that happen when we put a widget inside of a widget and we lose some functionality. So we have to go back and add functionality. We lose that when a widget goes inside of another widget. It's really not difficult. You just have to understand what to do. So that's what we're going to do in this section, and that's why I decided to section it off, because it's its own little animal. So to do this, what we're going to do is we are going to right click. Do a lot of right clicking, don't we? We're going to right click and we're going to go to user interface, widget blueprint, and we're going to get a user widget, and we're going to name this WBP underscore button. There's more in here than just a button, but we're calling it a button because that's its primary function. There's a lot to be learned in this little tiny section. The first thing that we're going to do is there's actually 3 elements. Let's double click into this. There's actually 3 widgets inside of this widget. There's going to be a size box, a button, and a text widget. So there's 3 elements inside of this. How we're going to do this is I'm going to drag in each widget, and then we'll go over each one as we set them up. So here we go. The first thing we're going to get is a size box. So we'll search for that, and we'll drag that onto the widget down here. Then we're going to search for a button, and we're going to drag that onto the size box. And last but not least, we'll search for some text, and we'll drag that onto the button. One thing that happens, and honestly this confused me for the longest time, was this screen up here, because you notice it says fill screen. Well, this is actually not supposed to be 1920 by 1080. So you might be asking, well, what size is this actually in reality? Well, if we change it from fill screen to desired, this is really the size of what we're working with. If you can, sometimes get out of the habit of going into fill screen and go into desired, and you can really see more or less the true nature of what you're working with. So desired is the size that the widget desires to be. So it's very interesting. Let's talk about this size box. It literally is what its name is. It is a size controlling container. It's good for resolving conflicts between widgets. It provides an extra layer of control, and it can reduce the need for excessive padding. It's good for a situation where you want something to be a specific size. What we're going to do now is for this particular button, if we come over here to child layout, and I click this, we can set the size that we want this to be. Now there's not necessarily any right or wrong value to put in here, but I know for these buttons that we're building, they probably need to be about 200 on the width and 40 on the height. But like so many things, there are so many things that can be overridden, and there's so many different parent-child relationships going on. This isn't necessarily carved in stone either. But that's the size that we're trying to force the button to be. And we're done with the size box. There's a lot of settings on the buttons, but what we're going to do is just go over the key ones for our purposes. One of the things I wanted to talk about is under style here. You'll see that there's normal, hovered, and pressed. Now, instead of saying normal, if it weren't called normal, it could almost be called unhovered, because that's the button just as it exists. And what these are essentially are color changing functions. So depending on the state of the button, these colors will change. So they let the user know the status of what's going on with the button. In our case though, we're not going to be using this functionality, so we really don't need this color changing function. So what we're going to do is come down here to what's called the background color. And if you hover over it, you'll see it says it's a color multiplier. Well, if you think about multiplier, if we multiply this, if we set the alpha here to 0, what it essentially does is it makes these colors disappear for our purposes. So that's what we're going to do. If you time something by 0, it becomes 0. So we're going to go 0 and everything becomes 0. For our buttons, we're going to use sound and animation to signal status changes. So that's what we're going to use to show the status of our buttons. So here under press sound, what we're going to do is go click on button sound, and then here under hovered sound, we'll search for flashlight, and that makes a nice hovered sound. So that'll be one of the indicators to the user, letting them know our status has changed. Here, just because I know how this menu has been set up, I know that I'm going to want about 20 on the padding coming from the left side. And of course, you could adjust these later to your preferences. But for our button, that's really all the key settings that we need to do. We'll move on to the text. There's essentially only 5 settings that we need on here. The first one is we need this to be a variable, so we're going to click is variable. Let's get away from this Roboto font, which doesn't match at all with what we're trying to do, and go with this Antigua font that we brought in here. And we're not going to change the font size on here. We're going to leave that at 24. I want to draw your attention especially to this shadow offset and shadow color. What's interesting about this is that the shadow color is already set to black, but we don't know it because the alpha is at 0. So all we have to do here is just, we want the shadow to be black. That makes sense. So we'll just set the alpha to 1. And now we have a shadow. And if I zoom in here, you'll start seeing that effect once I do some offset here. Play around with different offset values, but I liked 4 here and hit tab and have 3. So looking in here, you can see how much more stylistic it looks now with just some basic changes. We talked early in the very beginning about the importance of colors and how they can draw people in. So for this particular one, I have a very particular color that I like and that I want to use for this. But before I get to that, the last setting I want to adjust here is on the horizontal alignment, and I want to put this to the left up there. So that takes care of that. So the last thing we need to do is our color and opacity. So for this color, the red is 1, the green channel is 0.63, and of course you can feel free to experiment with different colors if you think something else is better. I just happen to like this color scheme. On the alpha, we're going to do 0.3. And that has almost a desaturating effect on it. So that's our color. Now, if we click into this box here, I can grab here and drag it up here. Sometimes you have to get it just right. And now we can get that color anytime we want. It's really easy to access now. So here we are. We essentially have our button completely styled now. Now, one thing I might do here, instead of it saying text block, is I might just put in text in lowercase. Not test, but text. Not texty, but text. Okay, that's more the style that it's going to be. It's going to be in lowercase. So we're done with our button text. Like I mentioned earlier, when we go to put a widget inside of a widget, we're going to lose its functionality. So what we have to do is do some workarounds. And there's essentially 3 things that we are going to need to do. And one of the first ones is what we call parameterizing the text. So what we're going to do with our text is a variable. So we're going to go into the graph here, and this is for the text, but we also need a text variable too. So I'm going to click here to add a variable, and we'll just call it text, and it's set to text. And most important is it needs to be set to instance editable. And then what we do is drag the text block on over here, and then we're going to get our text variable here, get it, not set it, and off of here we're just going to go set text, and it's going to be this one on the very bottom here, and we just need to wire it up like that. And if I go compile and save, it's probably a good idea to put a value in here so we can see it, because we'll lose sight of it once we go put this inside of another widget. So we'll go text here like that. And that takes care of that. Once we put this widget inside of another widget, we won't have our normal clicked button functionality. So we're going to use a event dispatcher to provide that level of communication. So I'm going to click on the button here. I'm going to go down to on clicked, click that there. And then I'm going to create an event dispatcher. So I'm going to click that little plus sign there. And we're going to call this on button clicked like that. Oops. On button click like that, and then all we have to do is drag this onto the scene like that and go call and plug this in. This will become clearer once we put this widget inside of another widget. And the last thing we need to do is create some animation so that our user knows when the button is being hovered over or when it's being unhovered. we're going to go back into the designer view and create a size changing animation. So instead of having color changing status changes, we're going to have an animation. So I'm going to click here on animation. I'm going to go dock in layout, and then with the text selected, I'm just going to click there and we'll leave it called new animation. I'll select it. I'll go to add, and this is going to be for our text. And then I'm just going to go plus here, and we're going to go to transform, and we're going to open this, expand this a little bit here, and we're going to go to scale right there, and we'll have an X and Y value. So what we'll do is drag this playhead out to about 15.15, and then here on the X we'll change it to 1.2. It'll increase about 20% in size when it's hovered, and it'll go back to its normal size when it's unhovered. And so if we look at this and I go to the beginning, you'll see this is just a very simple animation, but it's very effective and it looks great on a menu system. So I'll compile and save. The last thing we have to do is just go into our graph again, click on our button, and we're just going to scroll down here and go on to hovered and click. And then we're going to come back to our button. It kicks us out when we do that. And we'll go to on unhovered here. Then we're going to grab our new animation here and put it right between these two things. And then off of here, we want to play it forward when it's hovered over. So play animation forward. And then we're going to drag off of here and play the animation backward. Play in reverse right there. And all we have to do is wire this up like that. And this will provide our animation. So what we have here is we've set up the ability to update our text on each button. We've added the functionality for the on-clicked functionality, which we will lose when we put a widget inside of a widget. And then we have built in this animation. So essentially now we have our button fully built and available for us. Maybe it doesn't seem like very much, but this is quite an achievement, because if you understand this, you're well on your way toward creating modular widgets. In the next section, what we're going to be doing is we're actually going to be building our menu, and all the work that we put into building this button will become very apparent. So I'm excited to see you in that next section, and so I'll see you there.